Hello guys, welcome here to another edition of Out of Turn 4. Coming up on the show, we're going to talk NASCAR at Atlanta and Mid-Ohio this weekend. We're also going to talk SRX at Nashville. And then, of course, we have a little bit of racing news. Not too much this week. It was a very quiet week. And then, of course, we have our race weekend picks. Alright, so let's kick it off with NASCAR at Mid-Ohio. Parker Kligerman is back in victory lane this weekend at Mid-Ohio. He, of course, held off the guy who's been really tough to beat, Zane Smith. And then, of course, is Parker Kligerman's third win. It is Henderson Motorsports' second ever Truck Series victory, their first one since 2017 at Talladega. So congratulations to Parker Kligerman and Henderson Motorsports. A big, I think a popular win. Of course, that team only has one full-time employee, they had said. So obviously a huge victory, a huge upset at Mid-Ohio this weekend. Certainly I thought that was a race Justin Marks had in the bags, and I'm glad to see that Parker Kligerman came through with the win. And it was a pretty clean, good battle. And that's the other great thing about that race. So, excuse me. But yeah, that was obviously fun to watch. Not as much fun to watch, of course, Atlanta. And, of course, Austin Hill took the victory on Saturday at Atlanta. It is his second career win, his second win of the year. But, of course, it came with an interesting twist to it. Of course, Ty Gibbs was the dominant car. And Riley Herbst tried to jump in front of him on a restart. Had been clear for a brief second, tried to jump up in front of Ty Gibbs. The hole closed a little too quick, and Riley Herbst fenced Ty Gibbs and broke one of the toes or something in the 54 and ended Ty Gibbs' day. It's easy for me to say, Ty Gibbs, get over it, and that's pretty much what I'm going to say. But, it was a simple mistake, and Riley Herbst, he needs to get better. I mean, that's the big thing. He definitely was in the wrong there. The space wasn't there, and that's as much on the spotter, too, that the space wasn't there. So, again, but I have no sympathy for Ty Gibbs, considering what he's done all year. But, in this case, though, Riley Herbst is in the wrong, and, I will say Ty Gibbs conducted himself very well for the first time ever. So, I give him kudos. He really conducted himself very well in the end. So, but we'll see if any repercussions come from that. Of course, we're at New Hampshire this weekend, a good chance to get payback. Moving on to the Cup Series chase, Elliott was the dominant guy all day. Sorry, had to point that out. Of course, winning at Atlanta Motor Speedway. His third win of the year. He is now the leader amongst all NASCAR Cup Series drivers this year. And again, it was a very dominant performance. He swept the stages, won the race. But, of course, I have the question now, is he the guy to beat? The first guy to 3 wins? And it's tough to tell. I texted my friends after that race, and I said, honestly, if I had to pick a championship 4, if this show, I said, I'm going to pick a championship 4 right now. I'm going to pick the 4 guys that I think are going to battle for this championship. I couldn't do it. I still can't do it. And it's sad because we're about 20 races in now, and I still can't pick a guy. Actually, we're 19 races in, and I still can't pick anyone that stands out from the rest, because that's just how competitive this season has been. So, yeah, that's all I gotta say. I just can't believe that 19 races in, even Chase, even though he is leading in the win column, he's leading in the playoff point column, and I'm pretty sure he's the points leader right now. I still can't say that he's going to be the guy at Phoenix that's going to be battling for this title. I'd say it's an easy thing to say yes, but it's not a guarantee at this point. No one has really stood out from the rest week in and week out. Of course, a little bit farther behind, there was another issue. Denny Hamlin, Ross Chastain. This has been a well-documented rivalry throughout the year. They collide again on track. Of course, Ross Chastain entered the corner a little too hot. With the damage, of course, it pushed him up the track. And he slides right into Denny Hamlin, takes him out right in front of the field. And, of course, Denny Hamlin, after the race, had said he has reached his peak with Ross Chastain. Didn't approach him, to my knowledge, post-race. Of course, Ross admitted he was at fault again on the radio. In the post-race interview, though, he had said there was nothing more I could have done. Another situation where I say, well, Denny's done this for years. Okay? Denny's raced Joey Logano terribly. Denny Hamlin has raced Chase Elliott terribly in the past. You know, and that's where things go with guys like Denny Hamlin and Kevin Harvick, where if they get dumped like this, I can't say I won't defend it. I mean, don't get me wrong. It's bad, and it's getting tough to defend Ross Chastain nowadays. Again, because he's making the same mistakes. He's in too good of a ride to be making these kinds of mistakes week in and week out. It's tough for me to say because I really like Ross. I think, he's the kind of guy this sport needs in a good ride. Just from the standpoint of he's aggressive and he can win races in the right equipment. Again, he's that guy we've needed for a long time at the Cup level. That kind of energy. But he needs to learn when to dial it up and when to dial down. That's the one thing he needs to learn really quick. Because guys like Denny Hamlin, he needs to earn their respect. As much as you don't want to say it. But again, they've reached their peak with him, and he's reached his peak with Ross, and I don't blame him. I hate to say it, I just don't blame him. As far as when will there be payback, I don't doubt it. I don't know if it'll be next week. I don't know if it'll be in the playoffs. I don't know if it'll be any time in the future. But again, I expect Denny will get him back, and he's going to get him back twice as hard. So, we'll have to wait and see. Of course, on to SRX at Nashville. Bobby Labonte wins the main event at the Nashville Fairgrounds. A good win for him. I unfortunately didn't get to watch the race, but it looked like it was a good race, and congrats to Bobby, of course. I don't know if we've seen Bobby Labonte in Victory Lane since 03. So I'm really disappointed that I couldn't stay awake for this race. But of course, I'm glad to see him win. Of course, Bobby's a good guy, so it's good to see the good guys win. On to the racing news, and this is going to be a short episode, guys, so stay tuned. Again, you can kind of tell I'm stuffed up. I'm not feeling that great, and we're recording late, so no COVID, though. That's good. But we're on to the racing news now. Tatiana Calderon, she is officially sidelined for the Toronto race due to sponsorship issues. Of course, their sponsor Rocket, which sponsors both Tatiana Calderon and Kyle Kirkwood, has yet to pay for the 11 car. And this could be the end of Tatiana Calderon and J.R. Hildebrand's run this season. It's unfortunate. Of course, Rocket is in their second year of sponsoring AJ Foyt Racing, and of course their first year on that number 11, which is supposed to be a full-time entry. It's a shame, but that's part of the business, and I feel like Tatiana's gotten stronger every single race. She's not where she needs to be, and that car is way off the pace, but I feel like she's learned a lot this year, given that she's not in good equipment. But it's unfortunate. This was a step forward for the sport. Of course, she's one of the supposed 26 full-time entries, and now that's kind of put on ice. Now it's now down to 25. Of course, this also hurts AJ Foyt Racing. The Winner's Circle program pays out cars that finish the full season. So this is a big money hit for AJ Foyt Racing, not just because Rocket's not paying, but now the end of the season bonuses. This hurts them in terms of getting their postseason bonus for the 11. Now they will get it for the 4 and the 14, but again, to not have the 11 in the field, that's going to hinder them going forward. Anyway, another small team. Well, this one's a much smaller team. Of course, we just mentioned Henderson Motorsports. They want to race full-time in the Truck Series in 2023, but of course, sponsors would be pending, and of course, they're definitely going to have to beef up their roster. Of course, Henderson Motorsports, I should note, a former Cup team as well, and a former Xfinity team, of course, back in the 90s and early 2000s. And needless to say, I think their driver would have to be Parker Kligerman. He's the one who got him their 2 victories. And I feel like NBC can help him get that sponsorship to go full-time. I feel like it'd be good for someone like Parker to run full-time in that truck. I feel like he could compete for a Truck Series title. He can be kind of like that Matt Crafton role in the Truck Series. So again, I like it. I think he should be their driver, and I think having Henderson would be good. The question is, will Chevy back him? Because, of course, we know Chevy and Toyota, they back a lot of entries in the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series. So maybe they'd have to switch to Ford. I think that's a real possibility. Maybe, they'd have to do a partnership with GMS, but it's clear that Chevy doesn't have the manpower in the Truck Series compared to Toyota. And then the only strong Ford in the field is the 38. So I feel like if Ford could step up and back Henderson in the future, maybe that would benefit them, because I feel like Toyota's stretched thin in the Truck Series. Again, the 4 or 5 entries that ThorSport enters, the 3 entries at KBM, I just don't see that being a possibility that Toyota could. And again, Chevy with GMS and others, I just don't see that being a possibility for them to be competitive in a week in and week out basis. But again, I feel like the only option for them as far as the driver goes would be Parker Kligerman in the number 75 next season. But again, they could also do a part-time effort. Maybe, or rotating drivers is what I mean, to get the sponsorship in there. Excuse me. Maybe Parker runs race, 10, 15 races, and then the other 7 are run by someone, I don't know, maybe Sam Mayer. Maybe you get a couple of Cup guys on the Chevy side that'd be willing to come over. I don't feel like Trackhouse would be that team, but, maybe someone like Ricky Stenhouse could come over and run for them. At the dirt tracks at the super speedway, at the dirt tracks at a couple of ovals that he wants to get some experience at. That one's a tough sell. I can't think of any other Chevy driver. Maybe Corey LaJoie would run a race or two. I'm just tossing names out there. So, that would be my idea, though. But we're on to the picks. Again, short episode, so sorry about that. SRX at I-55 this weekend. I'm going to pick Ken Schrader to win that race. Ken's really good at I-55. He's the ringer this week, I believe. And of course, Ken did test, and I believe he tested and gave the setups for SRX the whole first year and part of this year as well. So he's very experienced in an SRX car despite never making an SRX start. And I feel like that's going to give him quite the advantage going into I-55. So, again, I feel like this is Ken Schrader's weekend to lose in terms of driving in the Saturday night race. Can't believe we're on the second to last race of the season for SRX. So, interesting to say the least. IndyCar at Toronto, of course. If you don't have Peacock, you won't be watching the race this weekend. IndyCar is only on Peacock this weekend. And I'm going to pick Will Power to win the race. Penske's been dominant. I think Will Power continues it on the streets of Toronto. Of course, you only got to go a little bit further east. And then you'll go to Xfinity Series, then you'll go to New Hampshire Motor Speedway, where the NASCAR Xfinity and the NASCAR Cup Series are running this weekend. I'm picking 2 Toyotas for those races. Brandon Jones, I think, will win the Loudon race, but I wouldn't be shocked if it's Ty Gibbs. Loudon seems to be the track that benefits Toyota the best. So I got Brandon Jones winning at Loudon. And then as far as the Cup Series, I'm going to pick Denny Hamlin. I think he's pretty upset after what happened last week, and I think he's going to bounce back big with a win at Loudon. And, of course, I wouldn't even be shocked if it's Truex as well, because Truex kind of got dogged out of a win as well at Atlanta. So, one of those guys. But, again, I'm going to go Brandon Jones, Denny Hamlin at Loudon, IndyCar Toronto, Will Power, SRX at I-55, Ken Schrader for the win. All right, that's the end of our show. Yeah, 16 minutes in, we're already done. Of course, probably next week, we're going to have our NASCAR Silly Season Special, where I'm going to pick, who will drive where next year. This is just looking ahead again. We're going to try to do that episode very, very soon. So you will want to tune in for that. I'm going to give my picks on what I think the schedule will be, where I think everyone will be racing, and some names to watch out for this off season. As far as moving up the ladder goes. And then, of course, but it might be next week on another day, because again, I said this is the kind of thing where it's going to take up a whole episode, so I feel it would be just better served to do a full episode separate, and maybe on a Friday for that. But next week, of course, we'll be having our normal show on Tuesday. Tune in to No Final Bell tomorrow. We will be back here on Tuesday with another episode of Out of Turn 4. Until then, goodbye, everyone.